Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
I'm gonna die surrounded by the biggest idiots in the galaxy.
You're a slacker.
You stupid idiot!
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Ugh. Idiot.
Game over, man.
Hey, careful with that Ronnie Millsap. We're downrange.
What's the matter with you?
I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
Oh, I'll take it from here, nurse.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way.
We're on a mission from God.
Gentlemen, Ciccolini here may talk like an idiot and look like an idiot, but don't let that fool you. He really is an idiot.
I was going to spend the night assembling a bougie, but this is holding my interest.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. This is episode 22, and since we're hurtling into week 4 of stay-at-home lockdown for a lot of the country, we figured it was time to share some lockdown survival tips and try to save some sanity. I mean, we didn't have much left to save to start with, but there's hope for the rest of you, and that's what it's all about. My name is Todd, and with me as always is the man who has referred to himself in the rarely used but highly respected fifth person impersonal for most of the time I've known him. He is the Balls Mahoney to my Axel Rotten, because you know we're just a couple of hardcore chair-swinging freaks up in this joint. I give you the man they call Tim.
Hello, good evening, my brother. Good day,
evening.
I should say.
Day, evening.
Man, you brought out the ECW. You went deep on that one, ECW.
Well, I was wondering if I didn't actually name the team, if you would get it, and then I realized, of course you would get it, because it was a 90s team, and you know all things wrestling.
Yes.
So I didn't even bother to try and play, Trip Up Tim on that one.
Well, thank you.
Your reputation precedes you, sir.
As did theirs, because, man, if there was ever a team that knew how to swing a chair and swing it hard, oh my gosh, those guys were ridiculous.
Now, weren't those two of those guys that they just didn't care? They had there was no half speed.
No, yeah, basically. I mean, that literally was their gimmick. I mean, they just go in and just swing a chair at full speed, and I don't even want to think about what they did to the people's heads that they wrapped it around. But I just remember a lot of replays with Balls Mahoney doing that, and the whole thing was he would do it, and he would hold the chair up and look at the dent he just made in it because of how fast, like with this look of wonder. And I'm like, that's the gimmick. I just concussed this person. Have a look. It's like, my God.
I'm going to be responsible for him being in a nursing home by the time he's 43.
I get CTE wasn't a thing back then, but my gosh.
Oh, no.
Holy
no.
moly. Good Lord.
That's like back in the day, when they didn't have expiration dates on things, and things were just staying good forever.
That fungus there, that'll kill a few things.
Just scrape it off. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, my gosh. So, my brother, week 4, we enter into
4.
a lockdown.
Oh, my sweet good Lord. It's getting interesting, folks. It's getting interesting.
Uh-huh.
This is how interesting it is, folks. We have a YouTube channel. That's how interesting it's gotten.
You have used your time wisely, my friend. You've been productive during this lockdown.
Oh, no, don't go too far.
Solved Spotify, ventured into YouTube. What's next?
I think MySpace is the next logical choice. We're going back, baby. We're bringing it back.
That's right.
Oh, man.
My goodness.
For those of you who are socially media inclined, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, where else? Twitter and YouTube. On the first 3, you can find us at Free Range Idiocy on YouTube if you just search Free Range Idiocy, and we're going to let you figure out how to spell that all on your own. Then you'll be able to find the last couple episodes we did. I'm going to post some more outtakes. That'll be an outtake right there of me saying uptake instead of outtakes. You're welcome. Just creating that content, baby.
And spelling the name goes J-A double. Never mind.
All right. Obviously, the cabin fever has taken hold on Tim.
Woo!
All right, calm down, slapnuts. Let's try and at least be somewhat professional.
Sorry.
We're 5 minutes in, and already Tim is completely off the rails. This is gonna be awesome. The thing is, it's kind of roles reversed because I'm usually the one on that side. So this is what it's like to be you. This is terrifying.
That's right. I got to let you have a little bit of the experience of the other side.
Oh my gosh! If you have never tuned in and heard this before, thank you very much. Feel free to share it if you like it, and share it if you don't like it, because we don't care. You can find us on Podbean. We are on iTunes, Spotify. You can go to freerangeidiocy.com and see all of our episodes there and enjoy them because, hey, let's face it, we ain't going nowhere for a while, folks. You better have, you're going to eventually hit the outer limits of Netflix, and then you're going to come crawling back here. That's how we look at it. Tiger King's only going to get you so far. That's only so many hours.
Oh, brother.
Speaking of which, have you watched Tiger King?
I have not, no.
I have not either. I think we're the only two people left on the planet who haven't.
Some bitch down there in Florida.
Stay strong. Stay strong.
That's right. And kind of to that point about sharing and letting people know, I think a thank you is in order to the viewership, or to the listenership. Viewership.
I talked about YouTube, and it's already.
Oh, my gosh. But we're at 555 right now, my friend.
Oh, my goodness. That is amazing.
555 downloads.
The fact is, there's podcasts out there with like millions of listens.
Hey,
thousands of subscribers, and we're like, hey, we've got 555. Woo!
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but you rejoice in the small things.
You do.
Rejoice in the small things. Well, sir, let's move on to what is perhaps the peak of the show, and after this, it's all downhill. Sir, what you drinking tonight?
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Tonight I am once again sampling, mainly because I need to finish it out here, is Alpha King, 3 Floyd's Alpha King Pale Ale. Not to be confused with Alpha Kong, which, as I described, is a
kick in the teeth.
An elixir of sorts with strong powers.
It's just this side of absinthe.
Alpha King, not so much, but a tasty brew.
Well, happy Easter, drunk uncle.
Is it, Seth?
Excellent. Well, I am having a fine beer, and actually, I think I might have. That's not nearly as good as yours was, but hey, we'll crack that.
Gotta get right up to the mic, brother.
I just did.
Okay.
I just did. This is
It's
an
the
Omission
best.
Pale Ale. This is Omission Brewing Company's Pale Ale. Now, technically, this is not a gluten-free beer. It is crafted to remove gluten, so they can't call it gluten-free because I believe it's there's no wheat, but it does start out with barley, which does contain gluten. They then have a process of removing it, so it gets down underneath I think it's 4 parts per million is the qualifying level where they say, hey, this is safe if you have gluten issues. I probably shouldn't be having this because I am full on celiac, which means really bad things.
I won't do what you tell me. Do what they talk. I won't do what you tell me.
One of these days, I'll tell the viewers the story of me getting diagnosed with celiac disease, and it's pretty funny. I mean, it's not hilarious, but it's pretty funny. It's kind of middle of the road.
It has its twists and turns.
Yes, it does.
That's right.
And we all end up crying at the end. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
But I do recommend this. It is about as close as you're going to get to real beer if you have gluten intolerance or celiacs.
Uh-huh.
So it is quite lovely, crisp and refreshing. And so we're both drinking pale ales this evening. That very rarely lines up that we are both enjoying the same type of beverage.
This is true. This is true.
So cheers to you, sir.
Cheers as well. A salute.
Beer.
All right. So let's move on to this, to the main subject of the evening here, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been, obviously, the two of us have been home for quite a while. I actually work from home, so I've been home for the past 6 or 7 years. You've been working from home now, how many weeks now?
I am entering into, I think this is week 4. Yeah, I'm entering into week 4. What
This is the 11-2nd of April?
This is back in 19 tickety 2.
Exactly.
Jeez. Yeah, this is week. We are starting week 4, and what started out as a 1-week getaway to work from home from the office has turned into stay-at-home orders and has turned into a permanent me being in my basement for most of the day.
So it's really like a Gilligan's Island sort of thing, where it was a 3-hour tour, and now it's until we get canceled.
I'm afraid I'm gonna become like a mole man or something. I come up from the depths beneath, and the light hurts my eyes. You know, it's like, good Lord, it's daylight. Jeez. But
what year is it?
19. Take it. Oh, never mind.
Oh yes, I set you up for that one twice.
You did.
So you've been home for a little bit. And
I have.
You've had your son's home.
Yes.
I've had my daughter home now.
Yep.
I believe this is going to be I think this is week 4 for her as well. It might be week 3.
Yeah.
I've lost complete track.
It was kind of like the middle of March is when it all kind of started.
Yeah. So I think we might be heading into week 4.
Yeah.
And this is, believe me, I am very thankful just for the fact that I do work from home, because I am able to still work. There's a lot of folks who don't have that advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, man, my heart goes out to folks who right now are out of jobs, laid off, and just trying to figure out how everything is going to work out.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation, and so even though we are kind of, again, I don't think anybody is listening to this podcast for the rational and scientific COVID-19 updates.
No.
I don't think you're not. If you're coming to us for your hard news and information, good sweet Lord, you're screwed. I'm sorry. You are screwed. I can't put it in a better way. I just want to make sure that you know exactly where you stand. You need to go and check out some reputable sources. We're here for the chuckles.
Yes.
And the sarcasm and goofy jokes.
The lightheartedness.
You mean shenanigans?
Yes. So even as we go through here and we're having some laughs, and we're going to talk about semi-serious with a lot of these. But we're going to have some laughs. That is in no way saying that this is a laughing matter. So just to get that out there right now, we're not taking this as a laughing matter at all. And if there's a way that you can help folks out safely, that you can reach out to people, definitely do that. And if you need help, please make sure that you let people know. There are organizations and there are places where you can at least try to look for some help. I don't have any of those right with me right now, but I'll try and link some in the show notes if I can find some on short notice here. And we'll all get through this together.
Yes,
is my hope.
I think
so. There is my introduction to try and introduce the introduction.
There you go. And I think maybe a different way of framing this is we have a segment at the end of every episode called "And Another Thing." In some ways, this is kind of a focused version of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
you should have been guiding this right from the start, because we could have saved 10 whole minutes.
No, that's all right. I mean, I was listening to you, give a very proper introduction, because there is. I mean, this, we want to bring a little lightheartedness and joy and funny into the world, but at the same time, acknowledging what this is, and this show is a little bit about things we've been doing to kind of. I don't mean to say keep the sanity, because it for me at least it hasn't gotten that bad, but it's one of those things where just ways to kind of cope, to kind of deal and to pass the time, and I think that's kind of what we're shooting for here.
Yeah, exactly. See, once again, the less idiotic of the two idiots just smooths that right over. He lets me stumble out in the dark for a while and grope around and fall down on my ass a couple times, and then he comes in and says, let me say what he was trying to say.
Let me tell you something, brother.
This is our gimmick. This is our
Oh,
gimmick.
my gosh.
Just Tim going, just go sit in the corner.
No.
Just go sit in the corner for a few minutes. Let the adults handle this.
No. Oh, boy.
All right. So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You know what? You allow me the honors many times. I would like to defer. I'd like to take a play out of Coach Belichick's book and defer the coin toss, my friend.
Take care of your responsibility and just do it right for once.
You're going to defer to the second half. I get it.
Yes.
You're going to try and double up on one of these before halftime, and that's the double dip sort of thing.
That's
I
right.
get it.
That's right.
All right. So the first one that I have, appropriate enough, is a morning routine, and for me, this is actually the whole key for me. I will admit, this is my biggie. And I'm not trying to say to maintain what is necessarily your morning routine, because a lot of people that's not possible with kids home or whatever. I'm just saying a morning routine, and I'll give you mine as a quick example. Mine has changed a little bit because of my daughter being home and my wife also being home all the time. So I get up every morning at 6 a.m. I say that because, one, I kind of want to get my day going, and the other is my animals will not let me sleep past 6 a.m., so I might as well just embrace the horror. Because I've got a dog whining, and then I've got the cat clawing over here and just singing me the song of her people, like, hey, it's time to feed me. So 6 a.m. is my wake up, feed the animals, and take care of all that stuff. And then before I wake up fully, I try to get myself changed and down in my garage on my exercise bike. And I do 30 minutes, which is about 9 miles. It ends up equating to.
Nice.
And then I do some push-ups. And that's really kind of... I'm not trying to get buff through this thing. I've been doing this for a while. It's mostly just to balance out my bad eating habits, okay? That's really all I'm doing, is I'm just trying to maintain. If I make progress, it's a miracle. But so I try to do that just to kind of get the blood moving and get a little activity in. And then go upstairs, make some coffee, shower, and then when I then have a little bit of free time before my daughter and my wife get up. And I've become a real big fan of this idea that I've totally stolen from Tim Ferriss, who is a much, much more successful podcaster than us. He's also an author and just an overall real interesting cat. You ought to check him out. But his mantra of make before you manage. And the idea being you have to manage a whole bunch of stuff, but you should really do something creative or fulfilling to yourself first thing in the morning. That way, if everything else goes to crap immediately afterwards, you can go back and look at that part of the day as a positive. Like you did accomplish something and it fed your soul, whether it's, if you're a writer, do some writing. If you photography, if you can take some photographs or whatever it is, like having that time before you get into your daily work or the daily grind. For me, that is a huge deal, and that's when I do blog posts or writing or whatever to really kind of get myself going. And then after that, really my day kind of honestly goes haywire. My day after that is very volatile because I have a bunch of stuff and nothing is ever scheduled in the same order. So, but that is really what I try to do in the first couple hours that I'm awake. And also actually, I'm not going to say more about that because that is it. That is really it, is having that kind of rock to start the day off with. Makes the rest of the day just a little bit easier and feels a little more productive.
Nice. I mean, one thing I'll chime in on with this is I'm a big believer in like even on the weekends, just like you said, sticking to the routine of, it sounds stupid, but just taking a shower and kind of getting dressed. Like I normally would. Like the Saturday mornings where I get up and I don't do that and I'm just kind of lounging around, in T-shirt and shorts and just not really doing anything. I have a much less productive day than when I actually just do what I typically do. I mean, I'll get up a little bit later, on a Saturday morning or I mean, Sunday morning's a little harder to do that, but to just get up and then, just kind of conduct myself as I normally would, like even working from home, that's what I do. I mean, I don't have to do those things. I could just get up and come right down and start doing my work. But I always feel off when I do that, and so, yeah, so I think there's a lot of validity to what you just said there with really trying to maintain that routine, even in the face of things, other things maybe changing, I think is quite helpful.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. And so what's one of yours, sir?
Kind of a little bit of the same in the same ballpark is frequent walks outside. So yes. we are told to stay home, but as long as we can maintain a 6-foot distance with other people, we can be outside and at least take in some fresh air, walk around. The thing I tried to do, I was really bad week 1, week 2. So week 1 I didn't really get out at all. It was new, kind of working out of the basement Just kind of getting into a rhythm with that. Week 2, I started, my sister-in-law started a Fitbit challenge called All for One, where it's cooperative as opposed to competitive. And it kind of got me motivated to just get out. And we live in a semicircle that connects up to kind of a main road. And so if I do that semicircle like twice, that's about a 15-minute walk. I get usually about 2,000 steps in. So if I were to do like 4 or 5 of those a day, I could get 10,000 in.
Nice.
Problem is, with work being what it is, sometimes it is not so easy to get up, to get up to the ground level and get out and do that. So
yeah,
but it is a goal of mine to try to at least once every 2 hours get out and just to get 15 minutes in, just to get the blood pressure up, or the heart rate, the pulse, all that, just to get something going there. Because what I do, I'm very I'm very is the word sedentary. I'm sitting. Most of the day, I don't have a standing desk at home, so I typically sit quite a bit, and that is not the best for the health. So
no.
So,
and that was one of mine as well. Getting outside. We don't do not necessarily the frequent walks, but we've been trying to do at least one pretty long walk. Per day.
Oh yeah.
And actually it kind of dovetails what you're describing in terms of the Fitbit challenge and trying to get those in and then sometimes not being able to, kind of dovetails in with the morning routine, because the morning routine is important because it gives you a pattern, but it also gives you something that if you get off of it, it gives you something to go back to. So for you, having that challenge, even if you mess it up one day, or not mess it up, but if you miss a couple, it gives you something to go back to. It gives you a baseline to go back to the next day to kind of get back on track, which is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that would be one of mine is just getting a little like you talked about it. I mean, trying to get exercise in the morning, but yeah, just trying to get out and move, because it's unless you're doing work around your house. If you're someone who's skilled in the trades who likes to take this opportunity to do home improvement projects or whatnot, without that movement, it just after several weeks, it's not good. So,
no, and going into that as well, be sure that you put on jeans every once in a while, or dress pants, or whatever it is that you normally wear to work. Because man, sweatpants and PJs will lie to you. They will tell you sweet lies. And no, everything is fine. You're fine, baby. You're fine.
Get the sweats.
Yes. And then you go back and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not a size 34 after all. What the hell happened here? Oh, maybe that Twinkie break every day wasn't a good idea. Yeah, I get it. For me, one that has actually been a little bit long time in coming, but I've noticed even more over the past month especially, getting more than enough sleep has been huge for me. I've recently, in the past year or so, realized as a lifelong kind of insomniac / I only need 3-4 hours, 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I'm fine. I can function on that for months. I can't do that no more. I'm hitting like mid-40s ish, and that don't play no more. Don't play whatsoever. And especially with what we're going through now, because I've heard several fairly smart people who know these things and who have more letters after their name than I ever will, who have described that this is a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Whether and depending on what that means to you, but this is there's a new base level of anxiety and kind of stress that we're all under.
Yeah.
Even if your life hasn't changed that much, it just is with everything that's going on. And sleep is such a great recovery tool for your body and for your mind. And I've noticed for me, I've been getting 8, sometimes even 9 hours, just without even necessarily thinking about it. I just go to bed much earlier because I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I can't keep my eyes open. And man, it's so important that I do that, because now if I really short myself on sleep, I am just useless.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely useless.
Oh yeah.
So make sure you get sleep. I'm going to say that for everybody. Like, if you do none of these others, sleep is so important.
I mean, for me, my biggest challenge before my biggest challenge when I was going to the office is I typically get up very early, like around 5:15 in the morning. I'm usually on a 5:50, 6 o'clock in the morning train to downtown Chicago. Yeah. And it's, when I have those nights when I let myself go and I stay up late, like even, to midnight or 12:30, and then I have to get up and do that.
We've been taping.
Oh my God. Huh?
Like some of the times that we've been taping.
I didn't say that. No. Yeah, well, maybe.
You didn't have to say it, sir. You didn't have to say it. I know. I feel like I'm getting frequent flyer mileage for my guilt trip over here.
Oh my gosh, no. But since being home, where I'm not having to get up to make such an early train, it's been very refreshing to get up at 6:30, 6:45, get and having gone to bed at 10 or something. You get a good 8 hours of sleep in. It does. It makes a huge difference, and it mentally makes a huge difference for how you kind of approach the day.
That's insane. You're stupid.
Huh?
You should sleep late, man. It's just much easier on your constitution.
Totally. So give me another one of yours.
So I'm going to give you a specific example for me, but I'll get into what I'm getting at generically with it. So I wrote down "Keeping Up the Bass Chops" by taking on a Rush song like Natural Science. So what?
Oh boy!
Oh, you knew it was coming, baby. After our discussion with Mike and him opening me up to why not, I felt especially moved to get on the bass. I haven't been playing. Being on a stay-at-home order, we haven't. I typically play at my church.
All right.
And I have not had those opportunities the last 3 weeks. And so rather than let myself go both physically and musically,
Don't be lost when the time comes.
I started to, over the last couple of days, just spend, 30, 60 minutes on, I need to look up the site. It's called Big Bass Tabs, I think.
Well.
Is what it's called.
Sounds familiar.
But basically, you can look up any song, and what's nice is they have a feature where you can actually play it back. They kind of have like a MIDI digitized version of the song, of like the guitar part. And and then you just it has all the bass tabs for playing the song. So I started to learn it. That particular song has a lot of fingering going on, so it's really, I chose that one mainly to challenge myself, not just to be able to play a Rush song, but to play a song where there's a lot of activity going on, and it's And I got to tell you, there's even just getting the first part of that song down, which I almost have. You're talking about 7/4 time, which if you've ever played like 6/8, to go from 1 2 3 1 2 3 to 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 1 2 3 4. I mean, it across two measures is just a mind trip. So. So I spent a fair amount of time trying to sort that out. But the generic idea here is just being home like this and not having a lot of alternatives in terms of going out and seeing people or seeing things, going to movies, going to restaurants and so forth, is just to find something you enjoy, to challenge yourself, to just kind of find a Mount Everest, if you will, to kind of just have you use your time in a constructive way, getting good at something. Now, am I going to do anything with learning this song? Probably not. I mean, I'm kind of recording myself like doing like a QuickTime video and sending it to a couple friends of mine to just say, hey, check out what I'm learning how to play. Sharing the video with them and stuff, just to kind of, it's just because it's an achievement of sorts. I mean,
yeah, totally.
The song is not easy to play, and to get to a place of proficiency with it really, kind of means a lot. And that's something I like to share with people, which is kind of the other part of this, is connecting with people, like trying to stay connected when you can't physically, be together. And so I've actually found that to be a nice outlet for me, and a nice way. I mean, I don't mean to say it's like a show-off thing, but it's more about just saying, hey, check this out.
Mm-hmm.
This is something to just put some time into, and just sharing that with people and stuff. It provides a little different something for them, and it provides a little challenge for yourself. So yeah, a little challenge, whether it's musical or otherwise, just to pass the time.
Nice. And the one thing that I think of when you say that is, I also would probably tag that on, if you're all right with me tagging on to your thing, is is for people to have a little bit of grace for themselves too as they're going through that.
Oh yeah,
because I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm going to do this project that I always wanted to do. I'm going to do this project. I'm going to do this project. Like I said before, we're all going through like something that is very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you recognize it on a regular basis or whether it's just kind of there under the surface. So if you have days when like nothing gets written, or you don't get a chance to play, or you don't feel like it, or you're very frustrated because you can't get something, and it's more than likely because your mind is occupied like 80% worrying about some other stuff, give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Don't come down hard on yourself like you are failing the COVID-19 challenge, because it ain't that. Like these are, they're survival skills for a reason. It's to give you something to kind of get you through.
Yeah.
And that's, have some grace for yourself. Give yourself a bit of a break if things don't go exactly the way you think they are, or they should.
Yeah, and I'll just share with this. I mean, literally the first night I did it, I spent about an hour, and I learned maybe 3 lines of the song. Like because the song's broken up into, I think, 4 or 5 parts, and the first part is not terribly long, but it gets into a very challenging place quickly. And yeah, so I mean, if you do something like that, give yourself some grace. It wasn't coming easy to me at first, and that's okay, because that's part of the point of the whole thing is I'm spending time, and it depends on how your mind is wired. I like the idea of spending time trying to break that problem down, and try and literally trying to count off, kind of like what I did when I was talking about the 7/4 time. Once I figured out why I was tripping up, I was basically playing triplets when I couldn't play triplets across 7/4. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? You have a segment of 3, you have a segment of 2, a segment of 3, a segment of 2, and then a segment of 4 across 2 measures. You've got to work that out in your head, because you're going to want to play a certain way, and it's not going to work. And so using my time that way constructively just made me feel better than just kind of plopping down and watching something, or plopping down and playing a game, which ironically is going to be one of my suggestions.
Hey, that's okay too.
But that's okay too. So yeah, just a little constructive challenge.
Well, my next one up, my next survival tip is whiskey. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of. So, and I'm doing that because
bring me my snifter.
Yes, exactly. Well, no, and what I'm trying to say here is have some small thing that is relatively simple.
Yeah.
Kind of an everyday sort of thing that brings you some amount of joy, but don't overdo it. Okay? And this kind of goes back to me. I used to work for FedEx. What I found is in being out on my own in all kinds of weather and all kinds of conditions and all that stuff, I needed to find something that would kind of make me feel good in the middle of the day that I could count on, that would help kind of get me through the day. Because it's not the most fantastic job in the world. It's a great job. It can pay the bills and all that. But it is arduous work. And depending on the time of year and the weather, it can be horrible at times, because you're just fighting the entire day.
Yeah.
And for me, it would be either whether I'd find if I happen to be in a truck that had a radio, I would make sure that I actually had I found that classical music was the best radio station I could listen to when I was driving, because it was very soothing. There was very few commercials, and I didn't get hung up on whether I jumped into the truck and it was in the middle of a song or not, because I didn't know any of the songs right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So it was just a very soothing kind of background for me all day, and I really felt like I gained more of an appreciation for classical music throughout that, which is kind of funny when you consider I've been playing music since like 3rd grade, and it took being in a truck 6 or 7 hours a day listening to classical radio to kind of develop that, but that's neither here nor there. It could be like I would plan on every few days stopping at a coffee shop and getting a really good coffee that I knew I enjoyed this coffee, and that would kind of make my day.
Yeah.
Find something in your daily life. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It could be like, hey, I'm going to spend an extra $1 and get the good coffee because I'm home now all the time and I want to make sure I enjoy my coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be like I'm going to take 15 minutes and I'm going to write or I'm going to meditate or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that that's possible for everybody in the normal sense of like, oh, I can do that whenever. It isn't. You might have to rearrange your schedule. You might have to say, I'm going to do this after the kids go to bed, or I'm going to get up 15 minutes earlier before the kids are up, or whatever it is. I'm just saying, find something small that just is very simple that brings you joy.
Yeah.
And again, and it helps you really break down what brings you joy. Like a fresh cup of hot coffee for me is such a great thing first thing in the morning. That is one of those things that if I had nothing else, I would be able to sit there and have that and be like, oh, this is good. All right, I'm feeling good. For like 10 minutes, I can enjoy this. Whatever that is, if it's a cocktail after you get done your work day or whatever, or you get the kids to bed or whatever it is, okay, don't overdo it. I mean, don't sit there and like have half the bottle.
Right.
That's a bad idea. You know, don't go out and buy like the kind of coffee that, you know, is that coffee that the cats eat and then crap out and then they get the beans out of the. Don't spend like $83,000 on like the best coffee money can buy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just buying a better bag. Whatever it is, just don't overdo it, but find something and appreciate the small things is really what that's about.
Yeah.
So that's one of mine.
Yeah, for us, and it's funny you say that, and it kind of goes with my prior thing as well. My wife recently bought a cookbook, if you want to call it that, of basically different smoothie recipes. And we did an early kind of Mother's Day gift for her, getting her a blender that can do that, you know, high-powered blender that can do that sort of stuff. And
you got one of them like indoor wood chippers?
Kind of. I mean, it's KitchenAid, but it's got the high-powered, heavy horsepower motor going on there, baby. So it's
got a pull cord.
It's grinding. It's just whittling it down. You know, get the fibers just cut down. You know,
you put 2-stroke oil in the thing.
That's right. But last night, like I was flipping through that book with her, looking at different recipes and stuff, and you know, and I'm using her words. I was like a kid in a candy shop because I'm looking at all these things like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing, and like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. But like you said, I mean, these little things that bring you a little bit of joy, that bring you some uplift in your day. You know, we made one today. As lunch sort of thing, and it was fantastic. And
yeah,
who would have thought at age 44 I would be all about avocado, kale, banana, and coconut or almond milk? You know, I mean, it's a little bit of heaven, my friend.
Hey man, regularity is an important thing. Keep them pipes clean. But the other thing is, it can be even. And here's like. Just incredibly stupidly simple. I love, and I will actually find this. I like the Pilot G2 1.0 tip pens.
Mm-hmm.
I love those pens.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to write with any other kind of pen, I'm grumpy. I'm automatically just pissed off because I love this pen, and I go out of my way to make sure that I have them. So that I can no matter if I have to write something, write a note, write in a journal or whatever.
Right.
It's a silly, stupid thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it costs a couple bucks more. Yeah, but to me, it's worthwhile to make sure that I've got a pen that I like. Like I will forego other office supplies because I have a home office. So I mean, I'll forego other stuff.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that I can have the pen that I like because it's that important to me because I'm a nerd. But it can be something as simple as that. And maybe you like Bic pens. Maybe you like the ones that are like the clear barrel with a blue cap and stuff or whatever it is.
You're like Bernard from Westworld. Season 1 Bernard. The pocket protector.
Oh, well, hey, you know what? If a pocket protector does it for you,
Bye.
That's what you got to do. All right, so what do you got, sir?
So I'm again going to go with something a little specific here. And again, I'm kind of drawing from my own experience. Took some inspiration from back in January when we talked with Jimmy Dice from the Scruffy Looking Podcasters about Rise of Skywalker. It took me back. We had several discussions about Grand Admiral Thrawn and the Thrawn trilogy. Yes. The Star Wars books that were a kind of non-canon version of events that happened 5 years after Return of the Jedi. It was groundbreaking in that it introduced a new villain that really didn't have anything to do with the Force. It was just a very well-written I call him a villain. I think James kind of what was the term he used? He was like not apolitical.
Wasn't it free radical or something like that?
Yeah,
Like
I can't.
It was
think
almost
of
like a physics sort of term, and I'm like, all right, I'm completely.
You're absolutely
lost
right.
now.
Yeah. Well, he was basically pointing out that it wasn't that he was a villain in the truest sense. He was just a very strategic and tactically minded opponent, and he was very driven in these stories. And so the three stories, let me just jump over to my notes here, are Heir to the Empire, Dark Forces Rising, and The Last Command. It's a trilogy of books that basically outlines these events that happen after the fact as the New Republic is trying to establish itself. All the favorite characters are in there: Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, Lando. All have, it's kind of a look into where they're all at.
What have we?
Have we here?
That I don't have.
You belong with us in the clouds.
I don't have as good of a Lando impersonation as Apollo Creed. That's I don't. I'm working on it though. I'm working on it.
No, Apollo Creed would talk about how he would have the like what's the term he used in the last episode of The Mandalorian? He's like, you'll have your choice of all the prospects or something like. He just had these like weird names for
your guild rates have just gone up.
That's right, your guild rates have gone up, dude. I just took down a TIE fighter for crying out loud. And you're talking about
catch
guild
my
rates.
breath, would you?
My goodness
man.
gracious.
Anyways,
but if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're looking for some good reading material, Timothy Zahn does a fantastic job with these stories. There, what's really funny, and I don't know if you've experienced this when you go and reread a book. It's been probably close to 20, 25 years since I've read them, and as I'm reading them, reading certain storylines and plot lines of the books, I'm brought back to when I first read them and how I reacted to them. So it's almost like I'm remembering the book, if that makes any sense.
Oh, totally.
And yeah, there's like there's one part of the story where Luke, Han, Leia, and Lando kind of hatch this plan to kind of there's something. I mean, without getting real specific, there's something going on where they're trying to protect Leia. And they basically do this switcheroo, and to give you an idea of how good the Thrawn character is, he sees right through it. He sees right through it. He's very analytical. He's like, look at how long those two ships are together. That means a couple people must have gone from one ship to, I mean, like, he knew exactly what they were doing, and you just get this sense of hopelessness and relentlessness from this character because he's constantly pursuing them. And he's constantly on to what they're doing because he has a very clear end goal that he's trying to achieve. And it's a very cool story. It draws from some very interesting ideas. Without spoiling a lot of stuff, it's the first time I remember, at least, the idea of cloaking coming into the Star Wars universe. That was always kind of a Star Trek thing. So anyway, it's a very interesting set of books to read, and given these times right now and the potential ample time that we have on our hands, just an idea of some good reading that's based in sci-fi and based in one of the great sci-fi stories of Star Wars.
Totally. And I've as I mentioned in that episode, I read one of those books. I still to this day can't remember which one. I think it was the first one. But I've become more acquainted with Thrawn through Star Wars Rebels, which I've been watching with my daughter.
Oh, right. I remember James talking about that. Yeah,
we're in season 3 right now, and so he has been introduced, and he is like all of that in there. It's like, oh my gosh, there is a competent Imperial officer.
Yes, and
how did he slip through?
I know. And that's the thing. He's not an idiot. He's also not a rage sort of thing either. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, he's like so cold and calculating.
He is very calculating, and I know it sounds funny to hear me talk about it that way, having only read about it. I haven't watched Rebels myself, but it makes me happy to hear that you're getting that feel, like they're translating him from the page into the visual medium in a very accurate way, because he is such a cool character.
Yeah, and just the way he's voiced, like so like casual, like spooky casual.
Oh yeah.
Because it's one of those things where like in Goodfellas, they made Paulie. He talked very softly, and like that whole like
Yep.
Paulie didn't move fast because Paulie didn't have to move for nobody.
Right.
Like that sort of thing. Like powerful people tend to not have to yell. They don't have to shout and belittle you. They just tell you very calmly and just in a kind of normal voice what's going to happen. And their reputation, the power that they wield, just does all of the rest. They don't need to yell at you because you just know this guy will kill me.
Right.
Where I will be a grease spot if I don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I get that. And so the one thing I want to tag on to that, because I've neglected to put reading in mine, which is something that I stalled a little bit. And the reason for that being I got into a book that I love this author, but this book isn't just working for me right now. I have a feeling I could read it like next year, and I'll probably tear through it and love it. But for whatever reason, right now, it was a slog getting through this, and it was killing my want to read. So I just put that book aside, and I picked up another one. I started reading David Halberstam's, I think I just completely mangled his name, but The Education of a Coach. It's all about Bill Belichick, and I'm tearing through that, and I'm loving it just because it's a bit of it's a much quicker read than what I was reading before that was hopping around through time with like 18 different characters and characters changing and all this. The one thing I would say is if you're going to read, don't be afraid to just drop an uninteresting book. Don't be afraid. Like 50 pages, I think, is a more than generous sample size. If after 50 pages you aren't digging it, drop it like a bad habit, man, and go on to another one.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to be married to a book just because you checked it out from the library or you bought it or whatever. If it ain't working for you, just drop it.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, not that that'll happen with those, because I happen to remember the one book that I read being very quick read.
Yeah. No, that is sage advice. Sage advice.
I rarely get accused of giving that, so I'll take that.
Quick, end the show.
Yeah, I know. Roll the outro. So one that it looks like we're kind of both in on this one, keeping in touch with friends, which is I think a really really important, and actually even getting in touch with friends that you might not have been in touch with for a while. I found myself doing that more over the past couple of years anyways, maybe as a function of getting older and just appreciating some of those friends whom I've known longer, and trying to just at least reach out and see where they're at and just, say hi even is kind of cool. Like, hey, we don't have to talk every single day or every week, but at least, hey, how have you been, kind of thing. And in fact, this podcast itself is an excuse for us just to hang out and to talk, which has been fantastic for me.
I'm just agreeing.
As well as humbling, because again, you just keep saying what I'm trying to say much better than I do.
Okay.
But I love how you just agree with that, you jerk. That's it. I'm calling Jason Ward, and he's going to come in and do this podcast next week. But I had a chance to do like one of those kind of Zoom get-togethers last week with a bunch of friends of mine from my college marching band, and that was just so fun. It was so fantastic just to talk with people and to see how they're doing these days and all that. And it's so important right now because, I mean, quite frankly, let's face it. If you're in your house and that's where you're at, you're seeing the same couple faces all the time. It's good to see some other people. Because you forget how much, even as someone who works from home, I forgot how many random people I would encounter in the times that I did go out. And now just, I love my daughter and I love my wife. But man, after a little while, it's just like, hey, how you doing? You've already said that 10 times. Okie dokie then. Like my daughter was saying something the other day, and I'm like, listen, honey, we're all going to get on each other's nerves quite enough without trying to do it. All right, let's just all remember that we are all in here together, and just a little extra grace and a little less sarcasm. Like, I get it, but trying to keep in touch with friends is really important right now. To hear some other voices, see some other faces, even if they're through a computer screen. And honestly, one of the things I've enjoyed as we've been doing our walks around the neighborhood is just randomly saying hi to neighbors. Just like every car that goes by, I wave at. Every person I see working in their yard, I'm like, "Good afternoon, how you doing?" I am more extroverted right now than I have ever been in my entire freaking life, because I'm just happy to see other human beings. it's kind of crazy, but it is just so nice to see other people.
Well, and what's funny about it is we've, in a lot of ways, through this whole thing, if I can use this term, so it's going to sound a little odd, but in some ways we've been given the gift of time. I mean, the being sequestered and quarantined in our homes, not fully, we can still get out a little bit, but it has freed up our schedules immensely, and so we have more time now than I think we ever had. To do those sorts of things. And it does kind of take a little bit of a mind shift because, for me at least, I'm so used to, well, if I don't have anything going on, what's the list of things I want to do, for myself, sort of thing. But it's like you said, it's a great opportunity to reconnect with people, to connect with the people you normally would see, just maybe in a different way. So you were talking about a Zoom call. We did Friday night with my wife's sister, and then my wife's brother, my wife's sister and her husband and kids, and then my wife's brother and his wife and son. We did what I'm calling like a Zoom viewing party where we dialed in on Zoom so we all see each other and hear each other, and then we all kind of queued up on Disney Plus. We watched the movie Onward, and we watched it together.
So you sat around and watched each other cry.
Well, kind of. Well, that or we watched the kids dance around during the music parts of the movie, which is really funny. My nieces and nephews are still kind of in the youngin range, so they're very cute. My two nephews were. There's some like hard rock like song that like a heavy metal song that plays. I mean, not really heavy metal, but it's just a lot of guitar.
Well, for a Disney movie,
right? And the characters are dancing around or whatever, and they got up and started dancing all over. It was hysterical to watch. It was like you're watching like two different forms of entertainment. You're watching the movie, and then you're watching the kids react to it, and it's really funny. So
yeah.
So little things like that, or doing. I mean, Zoom is a big thing. We're that we're using to reach out to friends, to family. We talked with my sister last week. We talked with some friends that we would normally see at our church. We just did a Zoom call with them to be able to do a video call and see how they're doing and stuff. And so it's just a great way to reach out, talk to people. I mean, even this past Friday night after we did the family thing, I had a couple former colleagues of mine. We just jumped on a Zoom call and just chatted for about an hour. Just caught up. I mean, these are guys I sometimes go out and grab a drink with and just kind of shoot the breeze about life, and so it was just nice to reconnect and just keep in touch with each other and see what's going on.
Totally. Another one of mine is, and this kind of might seem like a little bit of a cop out, or I'm being slightly divergent of one of my others, but since when have I ever cared about that? Another thing I'm gonna endorse is a weekly routine. And part of that being kind of a break, or for those of you who might be more religiously inclined, a Sabbath, which is basically just making sure you kind of have a day that is restful in some way. And I will say this doesn't have to necessarily be a day. It could be a half a day, whatever it is that you can work into your schedule, because we all have different schedules and obligations and things going on. And this can go for people who are working right now as well, who are essential, and if you are essential and you're out there performing a service, like you're working getting people food, or you're stocking shelves. I mean, for crying out loud, the guys folks who are going around picking up garbage and recycling, and the people who are really keeping things working, delivering mail, delivering packages, all of those folks, make sure that there's some time, especially that you're taking just to kind of relieve some of that, because that's a lot going on. But even for people who are in lockdown, working from home or home with kids and dealing with all that, find time in your weekly schedule that is like you're carving that out, as well as on a daily basis. Like I say, make before you manage. On a weekly basis, make sure you have that break if you can. And again, it's different for everyone, whatever is fulfilling or restful to everyone. For me, it's Saturday morning. That's like the one day that I don't have the morning routine of getting up, getting dressed, and all that. I will stay in my pajamas as long as humanly possible, and I will drink coffee, and I will read and journal all morning.
Chacho, get me the sweats.
You bet you are damn Skippy. I am in the sweats, man. Because for me, that is a recharge. That is a restful thing for me. If I can spend hours reading,
yeah,
I can kind of tank off of that for the rest of the week.
Nice.
That's what helps me. I'm not saying that's going to help everybody. It might be, you go or you watch movies or binge a show or whatever it is. See if you can work that into your weekly routine as well and kind of keep that as a habit. And I think that kind of helps keep the days from piling up too high on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I throw in one more thing, not to what you just said, but the one prior about talking to people?
Yeah.
Because it occurred to me, I meant to share this because I found this really interesting. One thing that we have, that as a family, we've tried to do on the weekends, like you were just talking about, especially is like Friday night, Saturday night, is doing takeout. Because even though the restaurants are closed to having people dine in, a lot of them, I think, to keep going, are doing takeout delivery type service.
Yeah.
And what I have found very interesting is I'm usually the one that goes out to get the food, once we've ordered it, and it's been very interesting when I pull up, because a lot of them will bring the food to the car, kind of drop it into the the passenger side there, and I sign the bill. But I always ask them, how has it been going? How are you guys doing as far as business and stuff? And what I've really been taken aback by is how much they talk to me after that, because one guy was just talking about just how much more he's working than he ever has, and just how different it is for them to run the restaurant this way, and he's just getting into a lot of stuff, just very, very good. It was kind of like him getting a little bit off his chest, not angry, but just just kind of venting, because it's different for us. This is a very different situation for people in a lot of different ways. And it was just, and I know he appreciated just talking, like just someone caring enough to say, hey, he was like, thank you for chatting. Thank you for your patronage. They really appreciate it. And we did the same, like last night we got something out and I chatted with the guy and he was the same way, just we're all kind of in this together. This is all very different for everyone. And no one wants to see anyone get sick. But we also, don't want to see a lot of businesses go under either because of a lot of what's going on. And so there's a lot of very appreciative people out there, for doing that stuff, and they like to share it, So it's been very, very interesting just asking a very simple question and seeing just kind of the flood of words that come afterwards, and just the desire to have that kind of connection and conversation. I've really enjoyed. It's been a little bit of a spark in my day, so it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, in talking about however you can help people, if you're not essential and you're working from home, or you're out of work and at home, the cheapest way that you can help somebody sometimes is just by being a good listener.
Oh yeah,
seriously, there's so many times that people just want to be heard, just for a couple minutes, and if you can just genuinely listen, and genuinely respond to somebody. I mean, you don't have to be there for an hour and a half and get someone's entire autobiography. But to be genuinely present with somebody in a conversation for a couple minutes, man, that can be huge for somebody. And it is the cheapest thing you can do. It doesn't cost you nothing but time. And really, what were you going to do with those couple minutes? But maybe play a game on your phone, check Twitter or whatever. Like, you're not going to miss it.
Right.
And like you say, it you do that enough, and it starts feeding you. And it is a good thing. It makes you feel good afterwards.
Absolutely.
And that's such a great thing to be able to do for people. And I'm out. So now I believe you have one more on your list, sir.
I have one more, and I'll be honest, I'm a little hesitant because I don't want to start bad habits with people, because both of these games are bad habits.
So wait a minute, you had no problem getting me into malt liquor back in college, but now now all of a sudden you have a problem with things.
No, that's a totally
see.
different thing. That's
okay,
totally
never
different.
mind. Never mind.
No. So back in kind of the October November timeframe when things were kind of winding down a little bit schedule wise for me and so forth. I was kind of getting interested in getting back into just playing a little bit of video games. I used to play quite a bit as a teenager. When you and I shared an apartment, that was a whole other level of just Madden and wrestling and other ridiculousness. And then I kind of got away from it. Life takes over. You become a dad. More priorities in kind of in place that you got to deal with, and so
you're expected to keep these other human beings alive.
Well, in
thing.
some small way, yeah.
Oh.
So I started to kind of get the itch, and I was looking for something in particular because I wasn't trying to get into anything that would be like be like a required thing I'd have to do a lot. There's some games where you kind of get into it and you have that nudge where you feel like you have to play every night to keep up, or or you get into it's like a storyline sort of thing. And so so one game I knew about and just hadn't played in a long time, and that's Civilization 6. And that's a game, if you're into the kind of like a Sim City kind of game where you build from the ground up like a city, or in this case a civilization.
Oh, because that's not addictive at all.
Well, here's the thing. It's a turn-based game. Okay, so it's not like in real time where everyone's doing something at once. It's all turn-based.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you play it, what makes it so addictive is you start to build. This is the 6th or 7th iteration of this game, and they have so expanded it and so made it very deep where, you have technology trees, you have culture trees, there are all these things you're pursuing for your civilization to build it up and to make it strong, and to make it viable. And what happens is you get so into a rhythm as you start to play that what you just described happens, where before you know it, it is 1 a.m. And you don't know that it's 1 a.m.
I haven't gone to the bathroom in 5 hours.
I'm
about to pee the couch.
When we were out east for Christmas and I saw my sister and brother-in-law, I mentioned it to my brother-in-law as an interesting game.
Oh no, you didn't do that, did you?
I did. And I talked to him last week, and I asked him, I'm like, so how's it go? He's like, oh my gosh. Here's what was funny. It wasn't just him saying, oh my gosh, that it was a problem for him. All of his kids were chiming in as well.
Oh, you're going to be responsible for a divorce.
Dad was still up when we got up, and it was like morning. I'm like, oh my God.
Way to go, Tim. Way to go.
I'm like, so this is why I'm a little hesitant to mention this, but it is Civilization's a fun game. You have to play it in moderation. Set a timer, for goodness. Get the egg timer next to you. For crying out loud, set it to an hour and then just walk away after an hour, because it's just going to get worse. But a fantastic game, lot of fun, a lot of different ways to play it. You can play scenarios, you can play as a bunch of different leaders, nations, that sort of thing, different world configurations. It's very cool. The other game I picked up in November was I was also kind of looking for one of those like open world kind of games, where it's like never ending. There's just a lot of different things you can do within it.
Because yet again, this isn't going to go bad.
No, not at all, not at all. And I was not staying up till.
What could possibly happen?
I was not staying up till midnight or 1 a.m. playing this game and getting up at 5 to go to work. No, never.
Yeah.
But
if I was okay, OJ. But if I did.
Oh, God. Well, here's where it gets really bad. So I'm looking for kind of like a role-playing open world kind of game, and then I come across a game that fits both those bills and is a space-based science fiction sort of game, which
Lord.
is pretty much the tsunami of doom for me. So
on the plus side, you and your brother-in-law are going to be moving in together shortly. After both of your wives ship you off to like Saskatchewan.
You bums.
This is going to be
gosh.
fantastic.
So the other game it's called EVE Online. It's been around for a really long time. Started up, I think, back in the middle of 2000s, I think is when it started up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually one of the most successful what they call massively multiplayer role-playing games, online role-playing games. And yeah, it's basically what I described. You create a character. You have to pick. There's like 5 or 6 different races in this galaxy or this universe, and you pick one of them, and you kind of start building out your skill set. They have a great tutorial, which you have to do. The game is very, very involved. Got to do the tutorial. Got to run. Got to invest.
Homework? Are you serious?
All right, settle down, people. We've got a lot to cover, and time is short.
Oh, there's homework. You got to invest a little bit of time in learning, but once you learn the game, it's really well done. Really well done. I would say the same thing about Civilization 6. Got to do the tutorial to really understand the ins and outs of what you need to do there, and then after that, you just kind of do what you want to do. I mean, there's an economy in this game, so if you want to just go off and do mining, you can make a lot of money doing mining, and you use that money and buy bigger and better ships. You can do exploring, go into wormholes, do all sorts of fun stuff. There, if you want to do the whole player versus player bit, you can go, get some good battleships going and start firing off on different people. It's got a little bit of everything for everyone. So if you're looking to pass the time, and again, I will say use the egg timer on this one as well, because you can get a little deep into this and not realize that 3 hours have gone by. Those are just two recommendations from the video gaming perspective, if you will.
I'm just here shaking my head
in disappointment,
because in a show that we've had a Rush episode, we've talked in depth for 3 hours about Battlestar Galactica. We've talked about Star Wars, professional wrestling, obscure minutia. That right there was plumbing new depths of geekdom that I didn't even know existed.
Oh, my friend.
We've hit new territory here.
There is another layer uncovered, my friend. And by the way, the game started in 2003, if you can believe it.
Wow, that's ancient by internet standards.
It actually is. Star Wars Galaxies was a the same thing. They call it an MMO RPG type game. That started in 2002, 2003 as well, but they shut it down, I think, in 2009. Wow. I think is when that one died a sooner death. This one just keeps going, and the company that made it still makes improvements to it. So they have a pay. You can play for free up to a point. There's a certain amount of skill and level you can get up to in the free version of it. There is a pay version, so you can do even more. It's really up to what you want to do. I'm still on the free myself, because there's a lot of stuff you can do in the free version and have it be really entertaining.
Wow.
So yeah, another layer has been peeled away, my friend.
Well, let's move on to something else before we start getting into EverQuest at this point. So
Bye.
I actually put this out on Facebook to the friends that I have there on Facebook, because I'm old and I'm still on Facebook. All the cool kids are off on that snippety Snapchat and all that stuff. But I asked what some of their tips were, and some of these lined up with what we did, but had a little twist on them. So I figure I'll share these. One is salute. One is dressing most days as you would normally dress to go to work, which I think is solid. I do that. Even though I've worked from home for years, I don't work in my PJs. Even though that is so tempting, there is something about getting in the shower or just changing for work and having your work clothes. And I mean, don't think I get like a 3-piece suit or anything. It's like jeans and a t-shirt, and right now, and a baseball hat, because my hair is it was already overdue for a haircut when this whole thing happened, and now
Chancho, get the sweats.
Oh man, the haircut that Jack Black has in Nacho Libre would be a dream for me right now. Let me tell you. So there is something to that. Another one was going outside every day and then camping in the backyard on the weekends. And I'm pretty sure this is from a friend of mine who has, I'm trying to remember, I just don't have it noted down here, that has kids, so that can be some kind of a cool thing. If you're an outdoorsy kind of person and you have a tent,
Nice.
and that's something that you can do.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, that's kind of cool. It could change things up and stuff like that if you have a backyard and stuff like that. If not, I mean, when I grew up, for me, camping out, and I'm using my quotey fingers, was sleeping out on the porch. Because it was kind
Get
of
out on the porch, boy.
Pretty much. I think my parents just wanted to get me out of the house for a little while because they were just sick of me. But it doesn't have to be camping. But there's other ways to break up kind of the routines, however they might be. Another friend of mine, they apparently have a karaoke machine laying around, which is one of those things that I think a lot of people got as a gift or bought at a yard sale. And there's a reason why there's one at like every yard sale is because it sounds like such a great idea. And then you realize, oh, I really don't want this. But having hang up like Christmas lights, party lights, and having their karaoke machine and turning the living room into a dance club.
Nice.
So I'm like, hey, you know what? That's kind of cool. If you got the gear and you can do that. Even if you don't, I mean, hey, if you've got a stereo or if you got a Bluetooth speaker, you can always. There's a lot of karaoke songs on YouTube that you can find and just kind of goof around with those. That can be kind of fun. So I just thought those were actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
and,
that is. That's really neat.
So hopefully this has been good for some folks. Hopefully there's been some useful information in here. And with that, let's actually move on. As Tim mentioned, this has kind of been an extended.
Today, Junior.
Chancho, get the sweats.
Humana. This has been an extended form of And Another Thing, but now we're going to move along to
the real
And Another Thing.
And another thing.
So, sir, why don't you go first and roll out yours for me here?
So mine is somewhat related to what we've been talking about. So it's an extension of the extension of the extension of Another Thing.
But the man who's sitting next to the man, who's sitting next to the man, who's sitting next to the man.
Man.
And I won't complete that because then we will get our ratings bumped up real high.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Robin Harris, Bebe's Kids. You all got to go check that out. That's a bonus for you.
I had never heard of this app until a friend of mine had mentioned it to me, but there is an app out there called Marco Polo. Have you heard of this?
Marco.
Well,
that's where you're supposed to answer polo.
Right. A polo. That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Yeah. Anyways, I have heard of it. The funny thing is, my wife and her friends were into this big time a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of had this big thing, and then a lot of people went off of it, a lot of these kind of peripheral social media apps. But now it's making a comeback in a big freaking way because everyone's like, I want to talk to people.
What's really interesting about it is when I started using it to basically group chat with some friends of mine, I actually found that it's a really powerful way to communicate outside of doing texting. You know what I mean? Like it's video, so you can. It's basically video chat. So you basically you record a short clip of yourself talking to the people you send this video out to, and then they can respond with their own video, or they can just write a short text or something like that. There's some emoticons, emojis that you can shoot up as you're watching. I don't mean to say shoot up. I say it that way because if you click it, it actually floats to the top of the screen. That's why I was kind of using that terminology.
You're trying to say that it's highly addictive? I mean,
no.
Is there a warning label?
But basically, you can keep if you really like something, you can hit the thumbs up button a lot, and it fires up 10 thumbs up or something goofy like that.
You can make it rain thumbs up.
You can make it rain thumbs up. But I found it to be a really, really effective communication tool. It really helps. When you're in that situation where you want to write something, text something to someone, but it's too many words, because you need to kind of express it a little bit differently, it provides you with that expressiveness, and the ability to articulate what you're trying to say. So I just wanted to kind of mention it because I found during this time, found it to be a great way to connect with people, to communicate with them, especially people you maybe want to talk to frequently throughout the day. It's really, I mean, literally we send like 15, 30-second at most kind of little video clips to each other. One of my friends' his wife actually went through a procedure last week, so we were kind of communicating about that, which is really hard to communicate over text, and it's hard to write emails and stuff.
Yeah.
And where he's taking care of her, he can't really do phone calls, on the spot. So just a really just a nice utility app to just kind of allow you to communicate easily with friends. It works off your contacts if you want it to. So I mean, it's easy. You can invite people to it, get them kind of brought into it, so you can use it and stuff. So yeah, so called Marco Polo. Just a lot of fun. Great way to communicate.
I might actually have to check that out just so I can find other ways to harass you during the day.
Well, we have to have our minimum communication during the day.
Exactly. Well, mine is a little bit on a sadder note. As a lot of people might know, on March 30th, we lost an absolute gem of a talent, Mr. Bill Withers, who is probably one of the great songwriters, and the only reason why I think he doesn't get quite as much popular kind of recognition in that terms is because he stopped. He walked away from the music industry as an incredibly successful songwriter, performer, recording artist, really in the early 80s, and just never did anything after that. He got so fed up with the music industry, he was just done. And the thing that I'm going to recommend is his Live at Carnegie Hall album, which was recorded in October of 1972. It was released in April of 1973. I mean, if you listen to all the songs that were listed when he passed away, Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone, Lovely Day, Use Me, Just the Two of Us. I mean, there's Grandma's Hands. There's so many great songs that this man wrote, and they all are just so. I mean, they'll cut you, right? I mean, there's some songs that are just fun and groove so hard. And then there's other songs that'll just bring a tear to your eye, like Grandma's Hands will just, oh my gosh, the room gets dusty every damn time I hear that song. And it's frustrating, but it's also very cathartic. This album is, I mean, he's a great songwriter, but this performance really highlights just how brilliant he is with an audience, and how comfortable he is with that audience, and in his in-between banter, and the way that he just elevates his performance and really just works with the audience and draws them into the performance. And so many times, like there's one of the songs, I'm going to look it up. Where is it? Actually, yeah. So it's actually the end of the concert, which is Harlem/Cold Baloney, which is a 13.5-minute final song. And at one point, there's this part where he's like, red light, talking about green light, dun, 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 must I holler, must I boogie on that? And at one point he talks, he's like, all right, I know that you're all sophisticated here in New York City, but it's not must I holler, it's must I holler. It totally just brings this audience, like he'd been doing that all night, just like kind of bringing them in and just like getting them to take this, and I mean, this is Carnegie Hall, man. I mean, this is like a very sophisticated kind of venue, and he's like, no, man, this is like some real stuff. This is a party. Just to give you an idea, like he starts the concert off with Use Me, which to this day, one of the funkiest grooves ever. Starts the concert off with that, finishes the song, and has to do an encore of the opening song. They want more of that song, so he goes back and he does like the third verse and the outro again. Like Use Me is like a 4 to 4.5 minute song. That version is like 8.5 minutes. But it's so phenomenal. And of course, like Ain't No Sunshine's on there, Grandma's Hands, which has a fantastic intro. I'll let people go and listen to that. Better Off Dead, which is fantastic. Of course, it has I Can't Write Left-Handed, which is a song he wrote about the Vietnam War, which he then recorded between the actual recording date and the release date. He recorded another introduction because the Vietnam War had apparently had ended in between those two. And it's all a song about this guy writing from the point of view of a soldier in Vietnam. And it is a fantastic piece of music. Fantastic. The only way that this could possibly get better is if you go and listen to the version that John Legend and the Roots did on this album called Wake Up. And even better than that, if you can find the live version of that album, it is just so powerful. But yeah, the entire album, and of course the song that kind of for whatever reason I was listening to it the other day, and Lean on Me came on, and man, I had it on kind of in the background as I'm doing stuff around the house, and Lean on Me came on, and oh my gosh, like I was like close to like bawling for whatever reason. I don't know what it was, but that song to me right now just is. With everything that's going on in the world, it's that song kind of just hit me in a certain way that I was not quite expecting. But I would recommend to anybody, go get that album and listen to it just front to back. Just sit down and listen. It is amazing, and you just remember just how lucky we all were to be breathing the same air that Bill Withers was breathing. That's just how I'll put it.
Yeah.
Because he was done doing anything by the time I really knew anything that was going on. And I'm just glad that I lived in a world with Bill Withers. That's all I'm going to say about that. So thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you listening and downloading. And please subscribe, like I said, on Spotify, on iTunes, or right here on Podbean. Go to freerangeidiocy.com, and you can subscribe there. Be sure to follow us on the social medias. Be sure to tell a friend and share it with others if you think they'll enjoy it. And if you don't think they'll enjoy it, it makes a great prank. Something that they're going to just absolutely hate. So, hey, do that too. We aren't picky. And now, as usual, I'm going to hand it over to the man who, well, I've already introduced him, so he doesn't need an introduction. And so I'm going to hand it over to him, to Tim. He's going to take us home on this one. I usually at this point I've just completely steered us into a smoking crater, and I'm hoping that he can kind of pull us out. As I've said before, the less idiotic of the two idiots who are on this show.
I don't know about that.
So Tim, if you would please, sir, take us home.
Well, as we have discussed and summarized as we enter into week 4 of lockdown, we have offered some ideas. We have offered some tips. We appreciate the crowd feedback that we have received, and we're entering into an interesting time with this. So it's especially important to be safe and be healthy. Listen to the CDC. They're telling us to go full Lord Vader on this one. So let's get the masks on, people.
I don't know if that's really the way they want you to describe it.
Probably not, but it's my colorful way of putting it. Maybe
full on Storm Shadow.
Oh, maybe. That's another way of looking at it.
Free mask with every enrollment. Cobra!
There we go. But yeah, this is not to be trifled with. So
No.
Do take it seriously.
Yes.
Once again, I've been to the store. I've seen. Please, people, leave some TP for another. Leave some flour. Leave some baking soda. We all gotta bake our goods. You know what I mean? But we will get through this together. Connect with each other. Help each other out. We only get through this if we're all together in it, and let's keep that in mind. So with that being said, I leave you with 2 things. 1, Chancho, get these sweats. And 2, please hit the lights on the way out.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
So say we all.
So say we all.
I mean, that really got out of hand fast.